Good morning. Thanks for joining me for today's edition of Status Hearing. If you've been following this program for a while, you know that my emphasis is really on body movements and how body movement can, of course, enhance wellness in the body, but wellness in the mind as well. And so I'll be emphasizing a lot of imagery as we go along. And today will be no exception. I'm going to present an introduction today that may help you to think a little more clearly about what we're doing with each of the exercises. I've introduced it before, but I want to be a little more systematic about it from here on out. So we'll start on the back. I want to start about talking about this idea of dividing the body into two halves, a right half and a left half, and then imagining those lines of energy. So it's not a new idea, it's just that I want to be a little more systematic about introducing it. So dividing the body into halves and then finding areas that we can concentrate on that help us to become a little bit more mindful of what we're doing. And so I've decided I'm going to call these energy lines. Um, I'm going to talk about a rear external energy line, a reel, and a front external energy line, a feel. And then I'm going to be talking about a front internal line of energy, a file, and a rear internal line of energy, a rile. Okay, so we've got on each half an internal line of energy on the right, an internal line of energy on the left, an external line of energy on either side. And we flip to the back, the same thing. We have an internal line of energy on both sides of the spine, both halves of the body, and we have an external energy line on the outsides of the right and left sides of the body. So this week I've been talking about the reels and starting to emphasize the feels. And so today I want to emphasize both of those in the exercises that we do. So the reel, the rear external energy line, it starts at the two corners of the back of the skull and it runs down the side of the head, down the side of the neck, to the outsides of the shoulders, to the outsides of the shoulder bones. Feel the shoulder bones back there. And then I can feel it, I can send it all the way down the outsides of both sides of the rear of my body. It goes around the heel into the outside 2.5 toes. So my pinky toe, second toe in, third toe in, half the third toe in. And again, that's kind of interesting because there is a nerve that bisects that middle toe. So in fact, it participates a little bit of both the internal and the external energy line. And that's my rear. It's a downward line of energy. And I emphasize it as I exhale. As I inhale, I'm emphasizing my front external energy line. And that starts at the top of the outside 2.5 toes, runs to the outsides of my feet, up the outsides of my ankles, outsides of my shins, knees, thighs, hips, waist, outer ribs, chest, shoulders, go up the neck, up the sides of the face, over the top of the head, and back to those back bones, where it then begins to run down. So I have an upward line and a downward line. When I inhale, I'm emphasizing my upward frontal line. When I exhale, I'm emphasizing my rear external line and sending the energy down. Now we can go all the way into the arms as well. At about the collarbone, this bisects into two branches. One branch goes up into the head, and one branch goes to the outside of the arm, up to the palm. So this front external energy line goes up the outside of the arm, outside 2.5 fingers, and it comes back down the back of the arm. It's a lot. We'll continue to talk about it, but the goal there is just to give you an introduction of what I'm talking about when I talk about the reals, the rear external energy lines, and the feels. So let's start on the back and inhale up the front external energy lines. And notice how that if you pin the bottoms of your feet, as you inhale, you can almost feel lengthening up. And we talk a lot about inhaling and filling. And then as we exhale, we let the front of the body fall to the back of the body. So when we inhale, that front external energy line activates. It helps us to lengthen through the front outside of the body. And when we exhale, it can relax. And the energy is returned back to the earth. And we're on our backs right now, so maybe that up and down image is not as clear as the filling and flattening image. So fill the front of the body on the inhalation. Allow it to sink and flatten into the earth on the exhalation. And as we typically do, we can add a little bit of effort to this if we want to. If we're going to add effort, physiologically, the effort will occur on the exhalation. We're going to bear down a little bit into the floor, or if we're standing, we'll bear down onto the feet a little bit. Now, we can add effort on the inhalation as well. As we inhale, we're going to think about rising, filling, lengthening. As we exhale, we're going to think about falling, flattening, contracting, rounding. Inhale, rising, filling, lengthening, becoming larger. Exhale, falling, contracting, becoming a little bit smaller and rounding. So from here, I'm going to have you roll over and come into a sitting position. You have a lot of options for sitting positions. I'm going to start with a cross-legged position with my right leg on the outside. And I'm going to actively flex my feet for the reasons that I just talked about, the reals and the feels, and just emphasizing the upward line on the inhalation and the downward line on the exhalation. And you might be thinking, okay, what does this have to do with mental health or incorporating my head in my body? Well, if you have something to think about, you can engage your mind with your body so that you're not, you're actually thinking about your breathing, and you're thinking about how your breathing is affecting your strength and how your breathing is engaging your mind. So as we're sitting here, just inhale up those front external lines, bring it up to your shoulder, top of your head. Do whatever makes sense for you right now. Inhaling up the front external, front outside of the front of both sides of the body. Exhaling down the outsides of the backs of both lines of the body, both halves. And are these, call it whatever you want, it's just something to focus on. So inhale up the front external lines, exhale down the back external lines. And as I do that, I can emphasize whatever I want. I'm feeling into my feet right now. I don't know why, but I'm really being active with my feet. And as I inhale, actively pushing the tops of my feet to the bottoms of my feet. So engaging the tops of my feet, and exhaling, actively pushing the bottom external line of my feet away. So I'm pushing the top into the bottom as I draw it up. And I'm pushing the bottom away from the body as I exhale or ground down. Now, I could also emphasize the sides of my waist. Inhale as I fill. Think about lengthening up through my core. Just circle around with the shoulders. As I exhale, think about lengthening down to my hips. Inhale up through my hips to my core. Exhale down through the backs of my hips. And even this, you may find very helpful because it's not easy to sit cross-legged on the floor. And I lost my train of thought when I was talking about the different options that you have. I don't have a real wall behind me. So I can't lean up against a wall. If I did, I would lean up against a wall. It would make this a little easier. Another option that I could do would be to put pillows or blocks under my knees, or to put something behind my back. So there are a lot of options to make this a little more comfortable here. But just going back to my regular breathing, and perhaps you are feeling this in your upper shoulders. You really want to sink down. That's okay. But that's where you may want to get up against a wall. And that's where you may want to focus into the chest a little bit more than the hips or the feet. And if I did that, I could even start at my rib cage. Inhale up, circle around my shoulder. Exhale down to the bottom of my rib cage. Inhale back up. And all of that is going to help me sit a little taller and just focus on simple act of sitting. But I'm breathing too. And the breathing is helping me emphasize proper alignment while I'm sitting. So I could change my focus all over the place as I started to get tired, as I started to get stiff. We'll do that later. Let's get into this a little bit further then. So we're talking about the lines of energy, and we're in a cross-legged position, and we're circling wherever it is that we're circling. And now I'm going to have you turn your attention to your neck and just gently rotate your neck over to the right. Now, while I do this, I'm still focusing on my lines. And here you may want to just focus on rib cage to shoulder, shoulder back down to rib cage, and keep both sides level. If I twist my head, this side wants to kind of lift. So I'm going to level them out as I twist. Now, as I inhale, I'm going to come back to center. As I exhale, rear energy lines, send them down and twist. Inhale, front energy lines. Exhale, rear energy lines. External. So we're going to inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, send the energy down from the shoulder to the ribs, maybe even all the way down to the hips, because you may find that even sitting heavily into your hips helps you to stabilize this neck twist. So we'll do this a little more quickly. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. Inhale, exhale. Now slowly, slowly feel this stretch in the left side of the body. Feel the contraction in the right side of the body. Secure that left hip or that left shoulder so it doesn't come along with the stretch. This end is stable. This end is stretching. Inhale, center. On your next exhalation, come to the opposite side. Stabilize stretch. Two ends of the joint here. Last time here, nice and slowly. Inhale, center. Exhale, rotate. Stabilize, stretch the top of the joint. The joint being this ability to move our head to the side. Last time, inhale. The joint is the neck. And on this last repetition, ground down and see if you can ground all the way down into your hips, into your butt cheeks. And notice how that helps you lengthen up a little more actively and come back to center. From here, I'm going to have you take your right hand to your shoulder. So right hand to the shoulder. Again, take some breaths here. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, ground down. And right now I'm just focusing on my core because in this cross-legged position, probably your most vulnerable, the most vulnerable part of your body is your core. It wants to sink. It wants to twist. It doesn't want to ground. So I'm going to place my right hand on the shoulder. I'm going to slide my elbow backward. And as I ground down, I'm going to pull my shoulder blade down toward my butt cheeks. My right shoulder blade is especially active here. And this in and of itself, to me, feels pretty good. A little bit of a massage up here. Now I'm going to rotate my head. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, ground down. Keep pulling the shoulder blade, particularly your right shoulder blade, down to the ground. I've rotated my head now, so I'm looking over my left shoulder, and now I'm just going to look down. And just hold. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, ground. So the more actively you can ground down, the more of a stretch you're going to get. And you'll probably find that if you ground down to the right side of your body a little more actively, you're going to get a better stretch on the side that we're stretching, the right side. One more nice deep breath in, filling the belly and stabilizing, and then exhaling down the back. Now, we're going to come out of this very carefully. Raise your head, twist back to the front, and then relax. So we don't want to just come back to the center. So we'll switch sides here. Opposite arm. And again, I think this feels lovely. Because I'm kind of tucking my arm in. My hand's kind of pulling down on my neck. Oh, that feels so nice. And I'll start by breathing some systematic breaths. Inhale, filling, stabilizing the front. Exhaling, stabilizing the back. And now I can gently twist. Take another breath, just resituate yourself, and now look down. Inhaling, lengthening up. Exhaling, grounding down. And again, I don't want to abandon my right side, but I can emphasize my left side a little bit more because that's the side we're trying to stretch. And if I forgot to tell you to look down, look. So the head is twisted, and now I'm looking down. Inhaling up the front, exhaling down the back. So I have a basis for my stretch, which is the bottom of the joint closer to the shoulder. And then I have an end point for my stretch, which is the top of the joint into the head. So I'm rotating my head while I keep the base steady. And then I'm looking down. And I can play with this. I could actively ground down through my left side a little bit more. That helps me to stretch it a little bit more. One more breath in. As we exhale, lift the head, come back to center, and then relax. From here, we're just going to stretch out the core a little bit because you've spent a lot of time now stabilizing that core. So maybe focus on exhaling, pushing out your feet and pushing down into your hips. So push down into your hips, push out through your feet as you come forward. Inhale, fill your belly, lift your shoulders, drop back. Exhale, come forward, push down into your butt cheeks, push away with your feet. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So last time we're going to inhale here. We're just going to just let everything sink. Take another breath in. Exhale, let everything sink forward. And come back to center. I'm going to circle around to the right a few times, just to ground into everything. So I'm grounding into my right sits bone, my tailbone, left sits bone, pubic bone, right sits bone, tailbone, left sits bone, pubic bone, and I'm running out of time. So the other thing I wanted to point out, though, is that you have all these equivalents as you move up the body. As I circle and I sit into my tailbone, I can also emphasize my spine, the very lowest part of my thoracic spine. And then I can emphasize the lowest left rib, and I can emphasize the base of my breastbone and emphasize the lowest right rib. And I can switch sides. We'll do a couple of these, and then we're going to do some neck stretches on the opposite side so we can even out the hips. Okay, last rotation here. And coming back to the center. And from here, we'll just switch sides. So switching sides, I want to do a couple more neck exercises just to even everything out. When we have one leg in front, it just is worked a little differently than the opposite leg. So we've got another leg in front. Let's go ahead and start with the left arm. Got my notes right. Start with the left arm. We'll bring the left arm to 90 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees at the elbow, 90 degrees at the shoulder. And I'm going to square off my shoulders here. And I'm going to rotate my head over to the right. So again, I'm stretching through the left side of my neck because I'm rotating right. Take a nice deep breath. As I exhale, just gently begin to drop the elbow. So the head is twisting, the shoulders fixed in one place. But as I drop the elbow, I feel a nice stretch through those trapezius muscles. And those are the muscles between the back and the neck. And they support the head, and they become very, very tight the more we lean forward. Because the head, when we lean forward, begins to drop, and then these muscles tighten up because they're trying to control the motion of the head. So if you continue to inhale up the feel, exhale down the reel, keep the core nice and vertical, fix the shoulder, and rotate. And as you drop that elbow, you can deepen that stretch. Now we're going to come out of this carefully again. Gently rotate back to the center. And relax your arm. Same arm, same side arm. I'm going to have you bring it behind your back. Reach around with your opposite hand. One last time here. We'll rotate over to the right. Shoulders stay squared off. I'm sitting heavily into my butt cheeks. And as I exhale, I'm going to look down and slide that left shoulder down. And that's a pretty deep stretch, so be very, very careful with this. The neck is tricky. But I'm noticing that I get a better stretch if I can hold the front of my body more vertically. And the only way I can do that is by emphasizing the feel, the front external energy line. Each time I inhale, I lift my shoulders away from my hips. And again, I'm going to lift my head, rotate my head, and then relax my arm. So we'll just switch sides here. Bring that opposite arm up to 90 degrees at the elbow, 90 degrees at the shoulder. Just going to rotate my head. We'll start with the rotation, reestablish your position, and now see what it feels like to slide that shoulder down. Elbow, sorry. As I exhale, so where's the emphasis? The emphasis on the rear external energy line. If you recall, that goes all the way up to the arm, so everything can extend down the back, the outside of the back of my arm. If this feels too much, back off. But very likely, if it feels like it's too much, turn your attention more deeply to that rear external energy line, sending the shoulder blades down to the hips. And then inhale back to center. Relax your arm. We'll bring it around. Reach around with the opposite arm. Square off your shoulders again. Reestablish your lines and rotate the head. Now, again, the tendency is going to be to let go. It's going to be to twist. Really need to focus on that right side, external, front and back line. And now I'm going to tilt my head down. And now as I exhale, slide both shoulders toward my butt cheeks. I'm going to inhale around up through my hips, straight up through my core. Exhale down. And then on your next inhalation, we'll lift the head, unwind the neck, relax through the arms. So I have gone a little bit longer than I had hoped. And I really do want to do some of the final Shavasana. So let's go ahead and lie down on the floor. Very gently rotate your head to one side. Doesn't really matter what side. But when you do rotate your head, you're going to feel, if your shoulders are hunched up, you're going to notice. And you can slide that shoulder down, that shoulder blade, slide it toward your hips. And then go back to your center. Go to the opposite side. Oh, that other shoulder is kind of hunched up too. Now, one more time. Inhale to center. Exhale to the first side. Did that shoulder pop up? And as you exhale to the first side, can you pin the shoulder blade of the second side down? And now pin the shoulder of the first side down and rotate over. And come back to center. So just this is a wonderful stretch for the neck, for the shoulders, for that hunched over sensation that we start to adopt, well, that hunched over position that we start to adopt when we're sitting in a chair for long periods of time and we're not mindful of it. And that brings us back to the crux of my program. Just being mindful and investigating into just how simple movement, number one, can cause or alleviate pain, but how it's not really complicated to be mindful. It's just something we haven't done before. But if we do turn our attention to it, there are strategic, intelligent, non harmful ways to manage that pain, to manage immobility, to manage poor body alignment. And that involves your brain. It just won't happen passively because most of us have spent our entire lives not paying attention. Nothing wrong with that. It just tends to become a little more expensive as we get older. And sometimes that mindless living, it leads us to dark places. Now, is that to say that you'll always cure that? You never have to go there? Not necessarily. But being mindful of the body gives the mind something to focus on. It's safe. There aren't, dark places, regardless of trauma in your past. And that's not to say that you won't have to revisit that. It is to say that this is an objective way of at least beginning to approach those darker places. It's a safe way. Or to approach bodily pain, which may be a result of trauma or may not be. Much of our body positioning, though, is a response to things that have happened in the past. Sometimes just seeing the way you hold your body, there's just a flash of recognition. That reminds me of such and such. And oftentimes, the realization is that reminds me of such and such. That was 20 years ago. I don't have to be worried about that anymore. Wow. And a huge shift can take place in your body position. It's not something that you create. It's something the body will do for you if you pay attention. So these last few moments, turn your attention to the trapezius muscles, those muscles between the neck and the shoulders. They start at the bottom of the skull, at those bony protrusions I call your aural bones, A-U-R-A-L, not O-R. And they fan out straight down, and they fan out to your shoulders. See if you can feel any sensation in there. And you don't have to relax. You don't have to change anything. Just see if you feel any sensation. You might not. There's no problem if you don't. We are noticing these things. If you don't feel anything, move down. Where do you start to feel something? Give yourself a few more minutes of silent stillness and just silent inquiry. Investigate. And then take a deep breath or two to bring yourself back. Or if this feels appropriate for you, remain here. If you need to get up, give yourself whatever kind of stretch feels appropriate. And I love the feeling of the stomach or the lower back pressing into the floor and then relaxing. Maybe even arching my lower back and feeling a stretch in my belly. Gently roll to one side. Give yourself a moment on your side. And bring yourself back to an upright position. So, thanks for joining me today. I hope today was useful for you. I'm going to sign off from this class. I'm going to sign back on for about 15 minutes of silent sitting as a way of introducing another method of mindfulness. So I will be sitting here for 15 minutes. And if you care to join me, please come back. But I will be talking from time to time, just about things that you can notice, ways that you can occupy your mind, ways that you can deal with fidgetiness and so forth. If you're interested, I hope you'll join me. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Central. Namaste.